ISIS is behind the declaration. Now, the fighters are urging other jihadist groups to pledge allegiance to the new state. As you can see on the map here, the territory of ISIS covers the north of Syria, this direction, and the eastern half of Iraq, which is home to rich oil fields. So the question does arise, where does ISIS get the funding it needs to snatch power in the region? It's thought the group has powerful sponsors in the Gulf states which fund its activities. ISIS is also involved in smuggling, extortion and bank robberies. In the course of its rapid advance on Baghdad, the group took control of stockpiles of US-made weaponry, and even Washington has played its role in the rise of ISIS, as RT's Marina Portnaya reports.
The newest terrorist organization, known as ISIS, is overtaking al-Qaeda's reign as public enemy #1. Sunni Islamic militants are unleashing brutality and bloodshed in Iraq. But it's next door, in Syria, during a 3-year civil war, where the extremist group got its start.
We are where we are because we armed the Syrian rebels. We have been fighting alongside al-Qaeda, fighting alongside ISIS. ISIS is now emboldened in 2 countries. But here's the anomaly. We're with ISIS in Syria. We're on the same side of the war. So those who want to get involved to stop ISIS in Iraq are allied with ISIS in Syria. That is the real contradiction to this whole policy.
Right. According to reports, the U.S. government may have inadvertently played a direct role in strengthening extremists.
There are also allegations that the United States may have been involved in some of the training of these ISIS insurgents at a training camp in Jordan. So the Saudis, the Qataris, others are directly involved in this regime change policy in Syria and in Iraq, and the United States has helped and created these conditions, and this will cause chaos and expanding war in the region.
According to German magazine Der Spiegel, Americans were still in Jordan in March of last year, training up to 1,200 members of the Free Syrian Army to use anti-tank weaponry.
We have spent a lot of time trying to work with a moderate opposition in Syria.
Now, the White House is ready to spend a lot of money. The Obama administration has requested $500 million to arm and train Syrian rebels fighting to topple President Bashar al-Assad. U.S. officials claim only appropriate vetted members of the moderate Syrian opposition will receive American weapons and ammo. Problem is, it's not always easy to differentiate between the moderate and terrorist. Here's U.S. Senator John McCain posing with members of ISIS. The photo is now reportedly being circulated by the group as proof of their legitimacy. Not to be disputed, the legitimacy of ISIS's gruesome behavior. Violence so horrific, some report Osama bin Laden looks like a gentle soul in comparison. As the newest group of terrorists is growing stronger and gaining more ground throughout the Arab world, their safe haven remains in Syria, where the White House is promising to send more weapons with the goal of establishing peace. Marina Portnaya, RT, Washington, D.C.
And it's not just Gulf countries or the US behind the rise of the militants operating in Syria. We spoke to Dr. Hussein Batshi from the Middle East Technical University, who says Turkey has been widely supporting jihadists in its bid to undermine Assad.
We know that the Turkish government, in particular in Syria, is entertaining strong and close relations with Islamic groups. The Turkish government until now has not used the word terrorist for issues, but rather speaking about the certain elements of Islamic groups. We know that the Turkish government has been friendly to those groupings, and those groupings also abuse, of course, this Turkish sympathy of the Turkish government.
The ISIS attack in Iraq has opened up the already wide divisions in its society. There is religious strife between Sunnis and Shias, along with the separatist sentiments among Kurds in the north. And then there are other minorities like Christians and Turkmen who are in a dire position, as Lucy Kafanoff now reports.
Exhausted, terrified, with nowhere to go. These are Iraq's newest refugees. In a single day, tens of thousands of Iraqi Christians were forced to flee their homes after clashes erupted between ISIS militants and Kurdish forces.
All of a sudden, we heard shelling and explosions. We didn't know who was attacking us. We just knew we had to get out.
There wasn't any time to pack. Most families arrived with nothing but the clothes on their backs.
Food, clothes, medicines, important papers, everything we left behind. I don't know how we'll get by. Someone donated those blankets and pillows, and that's all we have.
They found safety on the outskirts of the Kurdish capital, but not much else. Temperatures soar past 100 degrees Fahrenheit. There is power from a generator in the nearby theater, but fuel is running out.
It's hard to believe that just yesterday this was a completely empty parking lot. Overnight it's been turned into a makeshift refugee camp. The families fled in a panic. An entire village emptied overnight. The volunteers are doing their best to help however they can, but supplies are limited and more people keep coming.
Most came from Karakosh, an ancient Christian community on the outskirts of the ISIS-controlled city of Mosul. It was seen as one of the last safe havens for Iraq's dwindling Christian population. Not anymore. Families like this one are twice displaced. They left Baghdad at the height of the sectarian civil war.
There is no safe place left in Iraq. In Baghdad, they used to slaughter you for being Christian. Now in Mosul, it's the same thing. There is no one to protect us.
This is the sound of a country torn apart. Sunni militants are sweeping across northwest Iraq. In Baghdad in the south, Shiite militias are digging in. The Kurds, too, are on the move, reclaiming long-disputed territory. Iraq may be one country, but for how long?
Actually, the sectarian divide is real. It's becoming more violent, and that's why you need to separate the communities and have everybody take care of their own.
In Kirkuk province, we meet a leader of Iraq's minority Turkmen community. He's taking us to meet the newly formed militia. They face extermination from Sunni militants, he tells me, but he doesn't trust the Kurds to protect them either.
They are afraid for the Peshmerga to disarm them and then leave them.
We arrive to find a deserted village. The families have all fled for safety. These men stayed behind to defend the land. They used to be drivers, teachers, farmers, and businessmen. They took up arms 2 weeks ago after Sunni extremists slaughtered dozens of their people in a nearby village.
No one came to protect us when they attacked, not the Iraqi army and not the Peshmerga. It was a wake-up call. Now we are here to defend ourselves. We have enough weapons and we'll fight until the last drop of blood.
Determined, but outnumbered and outgunned, facing an uncertain future in an increasingly fractured Iraq. Lucy Kafanov, Kirkuk province, Iraq.
Just ahead, going domestic.